Hello, hello, welcome to Vest Top 5, a show where anything and everything is possible. Don't believe me? Look at me. I'm hosting a show on YouTube that nobody watches. But joke aside, speaking of possibilities, can you believe that in 2018 it's still possible to watch one of these? If you don't know what this is, it's because probably you're below the age of 25 if you never held a VHS tape in your hand. Or maybe your name is Jim, and you're the type of hipster who has 25,000 followers, smokes weed at home, and is sleeping with my girlfriend. Yeah. But no, VHS tapes are pretty cool. VHS tapes were very popular throughout the 80s and 90s, and even in the early 2000s, there were people who were still using VHS tapes. And it's had a little bit of a resurgence within the past 2 to 3 years. Kind of like vinyl, but not up to that standard. We're seeing more and more people appreciate the fact that these were actually not that bad. There's a lot of movies that have not been released on VHS, a lot of movies that probably will never see the light of day on Blu-ray or DVD or any other format for that matter. So I wanted to make a list of the top 5 movies that I think you should definitely own on VHS. A little history before we get into the top 5 list. VHS tapes, curiously enough, were not the first format to be released. There were other formats before, but it was actually the most popular. And it became popular after a format war. It was a format war between VHS, which was, I believe, produced by Sony, and then it was one by JVC, which was Betamax. Betamax was better in quality. It was actually about half of this. It was actually smaller, but being that it was smaller, it also had less recording time. Whereas with a VHS tape, you can probably pack up to 8 hours in EP mode. What's EP mode? Good question. EP mode was the recording speed. There was 3 recording speeds, SP, LP, and EP. And SP 2 hours, LP 4 hours, EP 8 hours. With Betamax, you could only record up to 4 hours. So there were a lot of movies that were released on Betamax, but not that many. VHS was the one that won because you could have more recording time and it was cheaper to produce. So in the late 70s, all the way until like 2006, had a whole bunch of movies released on VHS. And in the 70s, if you wanted one of these, it was about $150 or even more. And it was actually about $1,000 to own a VCR. Nowadays, you mostly find them in thrift stores, same thing with videotapes, but there are some rare ones. So that goes into our list. Top 5 movies that you definitely should own on VHS. Number 5 is a movie that is very obscure. I don't think anyone has heard about it. I got this at a flea market many, many years ago. And I like the cover. The cover looks pretty cool. It's just a lady's leg, and there's like a guy walking in the background. The movie's called Night Vision. This was released in 1987, and it starred an actor who no one knows named Stacey Carson. And the whole story is about a videotape that is haunted. So he gets this videotape from this video rental store. Another little history, video rental stores were very popular back in the day where you would go to a store and actually pick out a movie. This is before you had Netflix, all these things where you can easily browse a bunch of movies. You have to actually go to a physical store. He goes into a video store, gets a VCR. Inside the VCR, there's a haunted tape. So it starts giving him weird hallucinations, and he starts writing things on a typewriter, and everything that he writes starts becoming reality. It's actually a pretty good movie. It's shot on a very low budget. The director of this movie ended up only making one other film called Mind Killers, which was pretty good too. It was released around the same time. The director makes cameos, really funny cameos in both films. In Night Vision, the director has a cameo as a guy who is trying to get into a rental store, but they're closing the door on him because it's already time to close. And he's saying, "Do you have a Mind Killer on VHS?" And he's basically mentioning the other movie he directed. So definitely check out Night Vision. It's available on VHS. It's a little rare. It goes up for as much as $175. It's not cheap at all. Speaking of expensive movies, this is actually going to be an honorable mention, but I'm just going to mention it here on the fly. It's not even worth being mentioned as an honorable thing. When it comes to videotapes, if I find them in a thrift store, whatever, great. That whole thing about paying gazillion dollars for a videotape, it's not worth it. Like, I've seen people pay like $500 for a movie called Tales from the Quad Dead Zone, which was mentioned in a documentary called Adjust Your Tracking. There's 2 documentaries that came around at the same time, one called Rewind This, the other one called Adjust Your Tracking, and both talk about like the resurgence of collectors. But they go a little too overboard. They're more about the hunt and trying to find the movie rather than just actually watching it on VHS. But anyway, going into number 4. Number 4 is another movie that a lot of people don't know about. This is a TV movie called Nightmare on the 13th Floor. So this one's also a little pricey. You usually find this for like $85. I found it for like $1 in a flea market. So maybe in the wild, if you're in a flea market or thrift store, you may come across it. You never know. So the story about this film is a woman goes to Florida and there's this haunted, building where there is no 13th floor. And there's just a superstition where a lot of places don't have a 13th floor. It skips to 14. So, but there really is a 13th floor and it's haunted, and whenever anybody stops at this 13th floor, this crazy axe wielder comes in and kills you. It's very straightforward, but I like it because it doesn't rely on gore. It relies on old classic scares, and there's actually some funny lines in the movie too. Check it if you can find it on VHS. Don't pay $85 for it. I'm pretty sure you can find it for a decent price somewhere in the thrift store if you come across it. Cover is really cool. I like the cover for the VHS, and it's never been released on DVD or Blu-ray. So all the movies on this list actually have never been released on any other format than VHS. Number 3, we have a movie directed by Victor Salva. If you're not familiar with that name, you are familiar with movies that he's done, like Jeepers Creepers or Powder. The movie on this list is the one that he's actually more notoriously known for a specific reason, which I'm going to get into. And that movie is called Clown House. This movie is available on DVD, not available on Blu-ray, and it's actually out of print. It's very rare. So is the VHS tape. DVD usually goes for like $100 or $200. VHS probably around $75 to $50. The whole story about Clown House, the backstory, was that a director, he's a registered sex offender, he's a child molester, he had sexual encounters with the protagonist, one of the kids in this film, and it was recorded. He went to jail for it, and this is just me, personally. People may be mentioning, why am I putting some guy's, film on this list when he's a sex offender? I can separate art from a person who's done something terrible. Like for example, I don't like Roman Polanski, the person, but I do like his films, like The Pianist, Rosemary's Baby. Same thing with Woody Allen. I don't like the guy, I think he's a creep, but I do like Annie Hall and some of his other films. So it's a case with the movie Clown House. I think it's an effective horror movie. It's very creepy when you think about it. It's literally a bunch of crazy people who go up to a circus, they kill the real clowns, they dress up as the clowns, and they start committing horrific acts, and they invade these children's house, and it's very, very effectively done. It doesn't rely on jump scares too much. It's actually done in a very classical way. It's a shame that there's a negative backstory to this film with the director and one of the kids involved in this movie. So this may sound a little hypocritical, but typically when someone in the film has been affected, then that's when I don't watch a movie. For example, Last Tango in Paris. The actress in that film was raped, and the scene was still used. So in that case, I do not watch the movie. So you'd be going to be saying, like, then why would you watch Clown House? Because none of the sexual acts that occurred in that film are in celluloid. Those were all, that was something behind the scenes. Whereas with Last Tango in Paris, the actress was raped. She didn't know what was going on, and they used that for a sense of effectiveness, which I thought was very, very wrong, and it was kept in the film. And I think that's disgusting to keep that in a movie that they made money out of. So I put number 3, Clown House. Some people may disagree. Hey, that's okay. I can separate, art from the person who makes it. So number 2, we have Alligator. Alligator is kind of like a ripoff of Jaws. During the time of the late 70s, early 80s, there's a lot of ripoffs of Jaws. Movies like Grizzly, Day of the Animals, and Alligator was one of them. Basically, an alligator is in the sewers, is attacking people. It's very simplistic and it's very dumb, but it's enjoyable for how dumb it is and how straight the actors play it. Like, they actually, I would be laughing. This is kind of something that you would see now on the Sci-Fi Channel, but they played it very seriously, and it's still funny. It's kind of unintentionally funny. The VHS tape is important because there's a cut of this film only available on VHS, which has all the gore and all that great stuff, which is not available on DVD or Blu-ray. The cut that's been released on DVD and Blu-ray does not have any of the footage that's on the VHS tape. So that's for that reason. It's a little bit expensive. I think it runs around the $80 range if you're looking for that expensive cut, but I'm pretty sure you can find a cheaper version somewhere, flea market, thrift store, etc. So number one is a VHS tape that even people who don't care about VHS tapes anymore, they don't want them anymore, but they'll still have this particular set of films. And that's the Star Wars trilogy. Hence the Star Wars shirt that I'm wearing. So Star Wars, this is very notorious, but I'll explain it anyway. There's been several versions of Star Wars released throughout the years. You have your theatrical versions, which are only available on Laserdisc and VHS. You have your special editions that were released in '97 only on VHS and Laserdisc. Then you also have the 2004, the 2011 Blu-rays, and it's just too many versions, but people always prefer the theatrical cuts that are available on VHS and Laserdisc. Laserdisc is I have them on Laserdisc, but it's a very big format, and it's sometimes expensive to find them on Laserdisc because there's a lot of collectors who want to have these movies on that particular format. But on VHS, you can still find the Star Wars trilogy for an affordable price. It's perhaps even cheaper than some of the movies I mentioned on this list. Like, I've seen them going for $20, all 3 films, and I've seen them sometimes on thrift stores. So the reason why people need to have these is because they've never been released on Blu-ray or DVD or any other format. They were released once on DVD as a special feature on the 2006 limited editions. George Lucas put on a separate disc, on disc 2, the Laserdisc rip in a very compressed file, the 3 films, and it just looks terrible. It's almost unwatchable. I have them, but for the most part, I just watch the VHS tapes that were released back in the 90s, because there's actually 3 versions you can find of the Star Wars trilogy. There's the CBS Fox versions that are the theatrical cuts that were released in the 70s and 80s as the movies were being released. In 1996, George Lucas released the Star Wars trilogy on a box set that says this will be the last time in which you can own the Star Wars trilogy on VHS. So it's funny that that's true. Well, I think he didn't even say VHS, he said in any format whatsoever. I don't know what the exact quote is, but to this day we still don't have them. Maybe once Disney buys Fox, we'll probably have all those movies on Blu-ray. But for many years, George Lucas doesn't consider those versions canon. He considers canon the ones that he's been meddling with for so many years. So those are the top 5 VHS movies that I definitely think you should own if you want to get into collecting VHS movies. So I have a really, really bad joke before we close this off. Why did the spider cross the road?
Because he had 6 legs.
I thought it's 8 legs. Spiders have 8 legs.
Because he had 6 or 8 legs.
Okay, no. Let's get to the website. The website that you should check out is Dropping Loads. Go to the Dropping Loads site. Also check out their podcasts and all the great stuff here on YouTube. They're not just doing videos, they're doing funny skits and great stuff on the web. So anyway, I'm Vest Guy. I'm the least favorite character on the YouTube, this Dropping Loads garbage. But I did do a plug-in for their channel. I'm getting paid. So anyway guys, until next time.